Thank you for tuning in. Today we're going to be looking at not Ethereum, but VeChain and its valuations against Bitcoin, its valuations against Ethereum, as well as the US dollar. Not only are we going to just talk about some price action and the what we expect of the coin over the coming weekend, but essentially kind of briefly discuss, and I think I'll do this for every coin that I have, um, basically how I'm going to be exiting out of the market because eventually I will be. Um, I've already started doing that with Bitcoin uh, and Ethereum, um, and I just kind of wanted to explain my logic in regards to that. And in this case, in this video, I'll devote it to VeChain. Now, remember, if you do like this video and the other videos that I make on this channel, be sure to hit the like button down below and also consider subscribing. So, with VeChain against Bitcoin, we are currently valued at about 94 sats, 95 sats. We have been trading within this channel here for quite some time, ever since the end of October, October 26th. And right now we have poked our head above it. We have had daily closes above it. We've had wicks below it like yesterday. But right now we're holding somewhat just above the line, and I think that is crucial. What's more crucial is closing above it on the weekly chart. Um, if that is the case, then we can expect and we can hope we see some kind of same kind of price action like what we did with Cardano, where we saw it break above, close, and then now with Cardano especially, we're expecting it to go higher because it closed above this trading channel, kind of repeating what it's done here. And when we look at VeChain against Bitcoin, it's quite similar. And so we're comparing the two charts, seeing their similarities, and kind of expecting something similar of a price move with each asset. So what's good now is that we're it's Saturday, it's the weekend, and we know that recently weekends have been quite good for altcoins, and Ethereum has been one to show that. If we go back to the daily and we look at the 16th of January, which was a 7% pump, I believe the 9th was a 6% pump on Ethereum against Bitcoin. And you can see notable cases. I mean, Chainlink's up 17% today, but uh, the 17th, well, we see on this Saturday last week, we see Chainlink really trying to go and wick high, but actually the following day on Sunday is where we see the big move of 16%. So we see that weekends are quite favorable for altcoins. So can we expect the same with VeChain? Well, let's look at price history. So what did VeChain do on the 16th? Well, it rallied 8%. The following day on Sunday, it rallied a percent and a third. Um, the last weekend was the 9th. And the 9th, we saw a move of 7.5%, followed by on the Sunday of a loss of 3%. The previous week, which was the 2nd of January, we saw a loss of 4.5%, but a gain on the 3rd, on Sunday, of 27%. So we see something kind of similar um, happening with VeChain. So expect in the next days, either today, which is fairly early. I mean, we got 9 hours of price action left, um, of this to move up, continue to move up, um, or tomorrow, and that's kind of like my expectation. And if that's the case, then we might get to the top of this wick, close there, and continue onwards, and it's going to look really much like Cardano. What Cardano did, it rallied up, it was a full candle, closed above it, and then we potentially might see like a correction down to the support and then rallied back up. Like this is kind of a pseudo hammer candle, I guess you could say, but it looks very good. So Let's look back at the big picture. So um, yes, I full disclosure, I hold some VeChain in my portfolio. Uh, it's roughly like 3%, not a lot. Um, Not relatively speaking to the rest of my portfolio. I'm perfectly happy with 3%, and just don't be mistaken. Just because when I say 3%, it might sound like jump change, but I think for my risk tolerance and what's already in my portfolio, I thought 3% was reasonable. And if it does move like how I expect it to, then I mean it's still going to be good money at the end of the day, right? So um, let's look. So I bought with Ethereum VeChain. So we'll get to that in a minute. But around the time it was around 70-ish sats. So if we move back to the prior all-time high, that's a 240% gain against Bitcoin. And taking that into consideration, what is that? 230, 240 sats. With current Bitcoin prices at around maybe 30, 31,819. We're getting to a pretty uh, expensive VeChain token. I think you would say. I mean, right now it's 2 cents, 3 cents. If it comes back to this level, it's like 7 cents, right? And what was on, on July 6th, 2020, what was VeChain worth against the dollar? Well, it was valued at about 2 cents, just over 2 cents. So we're currently above the all-time highs here with VeChain against the US dollar. But uh, keep in mind that we're relatively low risk against Bitcoin and also against Ethereum. Now, how do I know when to trade this? Well, I not only rely on the Bitcoin chart to know when to sell my VeChain. Um, Another one is uh, the Ethereum chart. Now, the Ethereum chart, oddly enough, much like the Cardano chart, has consistent highs, maybe not as consistent as Cardano, and consistent lows. VeChain definitely has consistent lows against Ethereum. We see we see those instances here, here, and currently we're still in it here. So if you were looking at buying VeChain and accumulating it with Ethereum, I mean this is the the prime targets to accumulate at. And then we see two instances of a top here, and then two instances here. So we see two levels of potential VeChain, where VeChain may go into the future. And that is what I'm expecting. So um, uh, I would also want to mention that I am not selling at just two price points here and here, but they will consist of two of four price targets. Okay, so this is what essentially I'm gonna do. It's it's really simple, you guys. I think it is, and this is essentially what I'll be doing. Um, so I'm gonna rely on the VeChain Ethereum chart for my selling chart. Um, VeChain against Bitcoin you can, but I usually use this as a reference, and I'll get to that in a minute. And same thing with the US dollar, I'll be using that as a reference. So this is essentially what I'll be doing. First sell, and these are rough numbers, okay, you guys. I'm not going to tell you exactly where I'm going to sell, but these lines are essentially just guidelines um, of my logic in selling out of VeChain. First sell, second sell at about 4,700, third sell, fourth sell. Now, um, with that said, uh, it's not going to be equal number of cells. So say I had 1,000 vet, right? Um, I will sell most of that 1,000 vet up here. So I'm not holding everything to the top here, but I'm going to be holding a good chunk of it up there. So at least I will be selling at that level. So essentially, it's about 15.5%, 22.5%, 26.5%, and 35.5% of my entire VeChain portfolio. So at the beginning, say I had 1,000, so it's 155, 225, uh, what is it, 26, 206, 265, and then 365 tokens uh, over that price period. And so say we get to 3,800 sat ether valuation on VeChain. Well, at that point, I'll then look. I'll look at I'll first immediately look at Ether Bitcoin. So I'll look at Ether Bitcoin and where we are on the Ether Bitcoin chart. If we're still relatively low, then I will sell it back to Ethereum. But this is, I would compare this chart with where Bitcoin is and to where the US dollar is. And this is the tricky part, okay? Because I do not want to sell my VET tokens back into Ethereum when Ethereum is pushing, 0.0835 Bitcoin, for example. I don't think that's prudent investing. I don't think I'd want to do that. At the same time, if Bitcoin is say at, you know, like $85,000, uh, I wouldn't necessarily want to do that. Even at this price level, okay, at 31,000, 32,000, that where the price is right now is overextended for me on Bitcoin. If I'm not buying any Bitcoin at this moment, right, um, I wouldn't necessarily want to sell my VET token back into Bitcoin, if that makes sense. If the risk is overtly high with the other assets that I'm selling it back into, then I wouldn't necessarily want to take that chance. I would then sell it back ultimately to fiat or stablecoins at that point. If Bitcoin is too high for me and Ethereum is too high for me, then it will go into uh, stablecoins. But say Ethereum is um, relatively low here. Like say it's this example, like our scenario right now. Bitcoin's at 32. Ether Bitcoin is at 0.038. Um, and for some reason, VeChain is, at 3,000, 3,000 Ether, 3,800 Ether, which is actually quite possible. I mean, VeChain can print some candles. However, so let's just take that for example. Well, at this point, I say, well, selling it back to Bitcoin, because at that point, if it's at 3,800 Ether and Ether is performing like it is right now, then it's most definitely outpacing Bitcoin, right? Um, so I'd look at Bitcoin and say, you know what, it's at $32,000. The RSI is what is at 73 right now. It's still a little overextended. Maybe it comes back to the 20 week. I don't know, but maybe this is not the best time to buy to be putting it back into Bitcoin. Well, then let's look at the second option. Let's look at Ethereum. Well, Ethereum just broke out, right? Um, Ethereum just broke out of this symmetrical triangle on the weekly. It's wicked above it, so maybe it's going to close above it. So maybe I want to take a risk. Look at it's at 0.038 Bitcoin valuation. Um, it's not overtly high yet. I still expect great things for Ethereum, so maybe the risk is worth it of moving my VeChain into Ethereum at this point in time. That could change in 6 months from now, into a year from now. If VeChain is at the top of top of the chart here at about, say like 7,500 ether, and ether Bitcoin is at, say say what point one Bitcoin. I'm gonna say, okay, well, maybe things are looking pretty overheated right now. Um, I'll consider maybe putting a part of that sell into ether, but most of it's gonna go into stable coins. Um, at that point, I think. And then I would sit on my stable coins, let them collect interest, and then wait and see what happens. If we see it pull back on Ethereum, hey, I got stable coins now that I can throw back in, and that's essentially my kind of strategy, basic strategy with VeChain. At first, I pick a chart that I reference, and I create the cells based on historical price action. Um, I do not treat VeChain as any other token that it's going to change, right? This is a ratio between VeChain and Ethereum, not the US dollar. So creating all-time highs like this is fairly uncommon. The only one that has done that consistently would have been Link and Celsius for currently right now, and Uniswap. But Uniswap is a new token. So in the case of VeChain, this is roughly my top. Maybe I'll save a little bit of VeChain and see how high it goes and throw a trailing stop on there. But this is basically where most of my VeChain is going to go, in this region here. Um, Things can change. There are a lot of factors that go about it. If, say, Bitcoin breaks the 20-week at any point in time, I will be selling my VeChain very quickly, as fast as I can. Um, if Bitcoin breaks the 20-week, a lot of my risky altcoin positions I'm liquidating. Um, I might keep some Ethereum, but most of the Ethereum is going to go. Chainlink I might keep because performance has shown that it does quite well in a bear market. But if it breaks the 20-week and closes below it, then I will be considering liquidating some of my altcoin positions back into Bitcoin, no matter what price it is. Um, because I really do not want to be on the bad side of the 20-week moving average, because as you can see, as price has, like, history has shown, it goes macro down, like, and there's no point in fighting that. Anyway, uh, I hope that is helpful. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Let me know if you like this. I'll continue on with the other, altcoin positions that I have. But essentially, this is kind of like my logic with most, if not all, my coins. Right? Uh, Chainlink is one. Um, when because Chainlink might be a little different because I expect it to outpace Bitcoin. So this Bitcoin ratio will go higher. Um, Ethereum, might be a little the same. I don't think it's going to reach as high as 0.12 Bitcoin, the all-time high against Bitcoin. So I'm a little bit more conservative, and my top is around, like, I think, point 0.8, point 0.08 Bitcoin, I think, and that's like one of my last sells uh, for that. Or you can use the US dollar chart, which I also use with Ethereum. Whichever comes first, really. I mean, if Ethereum hits a certain price point, and then I look back to Ether Bitcoin, what's the ratio? And if it's high, then I'll sell it back into Bitcoin, essentially. Basic attention tokens, kind of the same thing. Um, I have one, two price targets, and then a bunch of other price targets down here. Um, but I hope that's helpful. I hope everyone has a great weekend. That's all for today. Take care. Bye bye.